As we approach our final month of quarter one in FY20, we'll look at our new level of ADS, as well as the continued downward pressure of occupancy across the industry. I'm Robert Covino, and this is Mirus Industry Analysis August edition. Well, average daily subsidy for the month of August has brought a new high for the industry average of 180. The private operators are at an all-time high as well at 188.65, with the not-for-profits traveling just above 176 for the period of August. If we turn our attention to occupancy over the August period, we did see a mixed movement across the segments. The industry was slightly down overall, just above 90% of occupied beds for the period. However, the private operators did increase ever so slightly to just over 88.3% of occupied bed days. So if we turn our attention a bit more to occupancy over the period, we did hit a high of July 2017 of just over 93.2% at that period. Ever since then, we've had a downward pressure that's eroded about 3% of occupied beds off of our books across the industry. We'll continue to watch this trend, but as organizations continue to look at the consumers, look at the consumer journeys and experiences, it's important that they continue to consider all strategies of acquiring and occupying their beds across the industry. So the Medicare claiming activity over the August period was also a bit mixed. We did have the private operators still performing close to 10% of all claims being submitted during this period. However, the industry is traveling just above 88%, and the not-for-profits are around 8.25% of all claims being submitted. If we unpack then the voluntary claims within that segment, we can also see that all three segments did go up for the August period, all traveling within the 3 to 3.5% target, which a lot of organizations set for voluntary claims. Again, this is a measure of proactivity, which is also a leading indicator to drive their overall ADS performance upward. The percentage of addressable claims also grew across the industry in all segments that we cover. The not-for-profits approaching now 40% of claims being over 12 months old within the Medicare system. However, the private operators continue to drive a faster and aggressive process with that, meaning that only 30% of their claims are addressable that are outside of a 12-month period. As the industry stands, though, we did add just over 2% of the addressable claim base to just over 36% of claims in the system being over 12 months of age. If we turn our attention to the new act fee versus departed act fees as an average for all three segments, we did see all segments go up slightly for the period of August. The not-for-profits are approaching the $30 mark, where we do advise to try to target around a $20 a day variance. The private operators are a bit tighter, around 23.81, and the overall industry now sitting just under $28 variance from an average act fee incoming to a departed act fee outgoing. Within the complex healthcare claiming, we turn our attention to some of the pain managed procedures, and all three cohorts did go up for the period of August. The not-for-profits are traveling just under 50%. However, the private operators are now just under 52% of all claims in Medicare having a 4B claim attached to them. This is pushing the industry average up to, again, about 50% for the period of August, which also correlates to some of the strategies being utilized for ADS growth. Within the acuity measure, though, the pressure area care treatment has also trended upward, reflecting that the acuity level of residents entering care is continuing to rise. The private operators still leading at just under 45% of all claims having a pressure area treatment complex procedure associated with it, with the overall industry at about 38.5% of claims. Within the workforce data for the August period, we did see a slight downward trend across the care hours worked on a per bed per day basis at about 2.45 achieved during that period. The non-care hours trended slightly down as well, about 1.25% at 0.84 on a per bed per day basis. This does correlate with some of the downward pressures in occupancy as providers do flex some of their workforce over periods that they're currently rostering towards. If we turn our attention to the care hours and unpack some of the variations within, we did see a mix of the clinical nursing hours change. The RN hours did decline by about 1% over the August period. However, the enrolled nursing hours jumped about 19%. Further investigation was led to some of the leave that was taken from the last July period, which is now affecting some of the enrolled nursing data over the August period. AIN and agency staff were also down for the August period, with allied health professionals, though, jumping about 10%, which correlates, again, into the 4B and other ADS type of claiming with the specialized needs of acuity and residents. Well, joining me on the program today is Natanya Full. Natanya, I just was talking about some of the occupancy data across the industry, and one of the downward pressures we've seen since July of 2017 is the industry's had about 3% of the occupied bed days removed from our data set. Can you tell me a bit what providers are looking into when they're thinking about consumer acquisition, consumer strategies for filling these beds across our industry?
Well, thanks, Robert. I think one of the biggest challenges our clients are talking about is around transparency. So they're really frustrated because they're unable to see clearly across their business, across services, what that waitlist looks like and where their potential customers are coming from and why they may or may not be engaging in their services.
So Natanya, we're presently in month 2 of the new quality standards. Can you tell me how providers have been impacted by that and what they're doing to address this new approach to admissions?
So I guess our customers are really focusing on looking internally at their systems, their processes, their people, to see how they can make sure the customer journey is a positive one and the customer's needs remain at the centre.
So now effectively, occupancy is challenged and we are in a very tough climate from a macro level. But are we effectively talking about sales and marketing here, or what is the consumer experience really about for these providers?
That's a good question. Yes, it's definitely about sales, but not in terms of selling your bells and whistles and your features. It's about focusing on the client, making sure we understand their needs, we provide them with information that's relevant in their own language at the right time so that we empower them to make the right decision, because that will then impact their family experience and then the ripple-on effect is the local community.
Absolutely. Well, to give you a bit of insight as how we look at our business, please check out our new Mirus scorecard for some of the latest performance frameworks that we apply to our industry data. Next month, we do have a busy month of some of the national conferences, so if you are out and about, please stop in and say good day. But until then, I'm Robert Covino, and this is Mirus Industry Analysis August edition.